Greetings and happy Monday, Pat. It is not Thursday. We made a little switch up today. I got plans, you got plans, so here we are.
Yes, here we are. Welcome to the millions of viewers out there.
Millions, and in fact, I think we have 1 million right now.
Oh,
We're right there. Um,
yeah.
so I wanted to show, and what I'm going to show is, everybody's waiting, gonna wait, worried. Oh, is the economy going to be good? Is the economy going to be bad? And I want to share some numbers and show some things that go. I'm not seeing anything popping out either way. I'm not seeing anything that makes me say, buckle up, here we go.
Yep.
Um, I'm not seeing anything that shows that real estate's going to appreciate. I'm not seeing anything that shows it's going to fall down in a massive scale. I am seeing softening, but having said that, I'm going to actually show you what I'm looking at, and people can say, well, Rick, you're full of hot air, or, oh, yeah, it may make some sense, because we really don't know. And we've got a lot of political uncertainty. And then even today, China launched this app that's got the entire NASDAQ in a frizzle. It's an AI app that they developed for $6 million and Chat GPT cost us 100 million. And so it's got the high tech world in a panic. But don't you think that's the way this year's kind of gonna be? You know, just something comes out, oh no, and the market reacts, and it's not gonna be steady Eddie.
No, it's definitely not. I mean, one thing I have been noticing the last 6 to 8 months, the trend seems to be coming. The numbers that I see coming out week by week, the GDP you're not seeing these wild shocks to the market the last year. Seems like the market's kind of absorbing the news a little bit better.
Yeah,
You'll see.
the CPI forecast was for 2.8 and it came in at 2.9. Oh no.
Yeah. And I think, but you're seeing the market react less schizophrenically when the
Yeah.
numbers do come out. It's kind of like we're going to be back and forth. I mean, I know you and I don't think we're going to have a shock and awe um, show here as far as like, oh my God, like you said, there's gonna be something that pops up that like, okay, I gotta go out and buy a house right now.
Yeah. Well, here's my 7-day moving average. And I went ahead and went right back to last year. And here's, this dark line is number of new contracts, right? Ignore this. This is holiday season. So new contracts are going up, but they did last year seasonally. They go up. They went down, went up a little bit, spiked up here. That's kind of around March there. And then new listings, we went up, we kind of went down a little bit. We're starting to curve up. We saw that last year, went up, came down, starting to curve up. We are lower than last year on new contracts, but not dramatically. And so I'm concentrating on this gap here between new listings and new contracts. This is a little distorted back here because at this point, I was not subtracting canceled listings and expired. So that kind of muddles the chart. We actually have more of a gap this year than we did last year, but it's not reflected in the chart. So I want to lay that out there. And we're about, as you can see in the ticker below as it rolls up here, I think it's about 580 units, something like that today. So it's showing our mortgage rates at 7.07. Our active listings are up. This is the highest we've been in several years, above 22,000, which is a pretty big number for a Monday. And so we got 3,200 new contracts, 2,800 or 32 new listings, 2,800 new contracts, a difference of 413. So again, not a shocking number. It was rolling about 800 just a couple of weeks ago. And so it is what it is. Now, listings under contract, looking at it another way, Pat, is here's our listings under contract with the Cromford people here, and they haven't updated this to this week, but I suspect it's going to be a little bit higher down here, but it's going up. But then again, it goes up seasonally every year. So it's not something to say, wow, look at that. New listings, new contracts are coming up. Active listings, yeah, that's bucking the trend. Okay. That is something we haven't seen in a while. We're going up kind of like the SpaceX rocket, and everything else before was going a little flat. Debbie here's got a comment, says Wall Street Journal says existing home sales 2024 lowest since 95. They blame rates. I don't see rates coming down. What are your thoughts on that? We're going to jump into that in just a minute. Debbie, hang in there. We do have some thoughts, and they are correct. Here's listings by day, month to date. You can see that we've exceeded a lot of previous years where we're beating when it comes to new listing. We're higher all the way back to 2020, and last time we had more new listings was in 2019, and then 2013 and 2012 had a dip here, but we're climbing up again. It's not that chart that went, like this way. It's just higher, not in an alarming state. Listing success rate, though, a little tougher out there, folks. And it's continuing to go down. But in 2023, we were at 61. Now we're at 64. So while it is going this way, we've kind of been there before. In 2022, we were at 63.2. So again, we've stepped in that doorway a few times. Number of price changes per week. This has been considerably higher. And this is because people had that optimism in January and they're coming in too hot. And we see that in average list price. It still surprises me that I'm seeing average list price going up. I mean, you see more and more, and I get a lot of comments. My house been on the market. I haven't had anybody look at it in a month. Well, yeah. That's the lay of the land. When you have this much inventory and sales are lower since 1995, then you got to be priced right. And I had that video come out last night illustrating that. So is this going to continue to go up? It can't. Average list price is going to have to make a turn here pretty soon. It's going to have to come down, I think, down to about this level here if you expect to see any results on your listing. You can't hang here. Now, the average list price can be a little bit distorted, Pat, because the luxury market's doing okay. So, it's in those numbers. I can't filter out the prices in this chart. This is Cromford Market Index, and it's a pretty good leading indicator, and it's going down, not up, and it's considerably lower than where we were last year in 2024. So and it was telling us it was going to be rough way back here in 2023. So
the purple one, with the pink line.
What is this called? Turquoise, maybe? That's 2024.
Okay, that's 20. That's 24, and the one above that is 23.
Yeah, so you can see where it just started coming down.
No, those are what again? Repeat.
Cromford Market Index.
Okay, just the overall.
It's a measurement between supply and demand.
Yeah.
So so anyway, getting back to Debbie's question here, Pat. I mean, the Wall Street Journal says they blame rates. Well, it didn't need a rocket scientist to come up with that. But what do you think? And who knows? But rates are staying right there, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, this is the chart 10-year Treasury going back the last 5 years. And this is obviously back when in 2021, we had these nice little rates. The 10-year Treasury was at, we saw it at 0.587, believe it or not. Now we're at 4.53. But, we saw this upward trend last several years. And then it just seems like about in 22, we're just kind of stuck in this channel, really going back. Obviously, rates in April of 23, they were in high fives, low sixes. So the 10-year Treasury was at 3.57. We're a point away from that. It's 4.53 right now. So I don't see anything. I saw something on Twitter. There was this one analyst that said that there must be a reality show because it says season 2 of Powell and Interest Rates debuts next week. And I kind of was thinking, the new guest, they're going to have a new guest called Donald Trump. So stay tuned to this new reality show between Donald Trump and the Feds trying to figure out, his battle. I don't think in the end
I don't think that's a battle that you win, because isn't the real battle between the bond market
yeah,
traders'
and the supply
perception of whether
demand.
or not inflation is going to be under control? It has nothing to do with Trump and Powell. They can bicker back and forth, but bond traders are like, we really don't think we're going to see a big improvement in inflation. Isn't that really what's going on?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the Fed doesn't seem to be the Federal Reserve doesn't seem to be as a strong headwind now. The last 2 years we've been trying to figure out whether they're going to raise rates, cut rates. Now it's said, we went from 4, 5, 6 cuts to maybe no cuts this year. Now all of a sudden, the last week or two, there's a Federal Reserve gentleman Waller said that the banks may lower rates multiple times this year as inflation eases. Now, I do think from a policy standpoint, all politics aside, but just looking at policy, if Trump does obviously implement, he takes pressure off the regulations, starts knocking out some of this, because that does have a direct effect on small businesses, what they're doing. I think if he does loosen up there, if he opens up, I know there's a guy a couple of weeks ago that said, we were talking about the oil and supply, the demand. I just think overall, if he creates an environment that is going to be energy friendly, that is going to help obviously expectations of what where oil and gas go. I mean, we've been in an unfriendly energy administration. Let's just face it. I mean, regardless, people say it's political or not. It has been. So if he does loosen up there, I think it's going to be a slow grind to get inflation out of the system. Obviously, coming down from 9 down to say 2.8, 2.9, that was the easy part. I think right now, I think the Federal Reserve I saw some federal presidents say, 3% might be more the target. I think it's just going to be a slow grind. This whole, like we talked about with home sales, rates. I think rates will loosen up, but it's not going to be overnight. There's no way it's going to be overnight.
Well, I read something this morning, Pat, and I actually posed the question in my community tab about capital gains taxes on when you sell your house for a one person. Capital gains, you pay capital gains on anything over 250,000. For a couple, obviously it's 500,000. That number was set when Bill Clinton was president. Isn't it time that gets adjusted? Because you're seeing there are people out there that would like to sell. They're going, I don't want to get hit with this big capital gains tax.
Yeah. That's certainly, I never really heard that mentioned here recently, but that's certainly something that they could probably revisit to obviously help loosen up the supply. I mean,
yeah, that doesn't hurt revenue. Trust me. I mean, you'd have to have a magnifying glass to see if that even shows up on a chart.
Yeah.
When you look at the total federal budget and the amount of revenue coming in, oh no, we raised the cap on that. Where did that hurt us? You're gonna
that definitely would. I mean, I have not heard that mentioned here recently, but that certainly, if you think about it, policy standpoint, that would, somebody that bought a house for 150,000, now it's worth 600,000 or 700,000. I mean, that would certainly loosen up that on the supply end. Now, does this loosen up the demand? It's probably going to help both sides of it.
Well, you're still looking for that balance between supply and demand. But if you've got, I mean, look at why people are sitting in their houses. One, they've got really low interest rate, and that's starting to erode over time, just as people move, refinance, whatever.
Just like we showed a couple of weeks ago.
Exactly. So but that's a slow process. So you've got a lot of people sitting there because of that. And then, it's hard to measure how many people are sitting out there saying, well, I'm probably gonna have $700,000 capital gains on this home. I can't do it.
Yeah.
And I think, I mean, imagine how quickly things would shift and change if we did something really weird, like a 1-year tax holiday.
Yeah.
That's just my goofy non-economic education spitting that out.
I know. We're
just,
going to see that, it's going to be back and forth. I mean, the Federal Reserve obviously actually it's tomorrow and Wednesday. So, I mean, the Feds now have signaled that there might be 2 cuts, at the December meeting. But like I said, it's going to be kind of a tug and pull all year.
Well,
until
and I hope, as we bring up the Federal Reserve, I hope with people watching the show that if we've been able to get anything kind of illustrated out there that, waiting for the Fed to make a move isn't going to move your mortgage. Eventually, maybe kind of sort of, but it, because you remember all the comments and everything out there, by agents in the industry saying
oh,
September 18th or 17th, the central bank's going to lower rates, and here we go. And we're sitting there shaking our heads, going, "Really?"
yeah. Like I said, they went up. I mean, because they're going down prior to that in anticipation. It was a beautiful way to illustrate how the Federal Reserve and bond rates really moved, because they were moving 2-3 weeks prior to that, and then that hit, the Federal Reserve cut, and they started going. They just went the opposite way.
Yeah.
So it's I still think, like you said, I don't see any event that's going to be breathtaking or earth shattering that's going to make rates go up either up or down here. There's no real trend that's really solid trend that's been developing. It's like we have these little spurts, these 2, 3, 4 week spurts, and once again, if people really are, I've said this ad nauseum, but I think this is going to be a year once again with things slowing down. People can get price concessions. You've seen the softening with listings, the inventory is going up, that they can get $10,000 in seller concessions. That's really about the only logical way that I can see people really feeling comfortable about getting into something. If you can get right now rates, right today, and just to show to my chart, I mean, we haven't really changed that much. I mean, we're sitting right now at, I do my $475,000 purchase, 5% down, 780 credit score. You look at it right now, 6.99 is a cost of $1,300. This is one lender that I have, Union Home, good, really good lender. They're one of the tops on my loan sifter, my loan pricing system. But I mean, you look at it, okay, if rates do float down a little bit, let's say, they improve by 40, 50, 60 basis points here the next couple of weeks, next month or so, we're still looking at high sixes, 6 3/4, 6 7/8. But, to get down into the low sixes, I'm just looking at from a simplistic standpoint, the discount points. I look at the rate chart, okay, where were we here and where we at? I kind of compare it. To get into the low sixes, you're looking at, bonds kind of loosening up by 2.5 points, which is going to be, that's a good size move. And we're just not going to get there overnight.
No, it's going to take some time.
And, and a 2-1 buy down, you're looking at 2-1 buy down once again, to repeat it. You start at 6.99. If you do a 2-1 buy down, your starting rate's 4.99. This is not showing this, but then, I mean, just to get to 5 1/4 on a permanent buy down, if you wanted that rate, you're looking at a $34,000 cost to get to 5 1/4. Right.
Well, let me ask you a question. I'm out looking at a house, and you've got an example here for 475,000, and I want to get them down to 465,000. I want to get them to come down 10 grand, and they probably will. So what am I better off doing? Getting them down 10 grand or getting them to contribute $10,000 towards a rate buy down for me? Which one's going to save me the most money?
Oh, the rate buy down. Just on that, you're looking at probably about a $400. Let me see if I can pull up. Let's see here. Here, give an example. Let me roll this over here if this will help.
We'll get to that question in just a moment.
Yep. But I mean, okay, let's say 320. This is just not the same. Let's see here. Let me just change this, if you don't mind. Bear with me here. Say $450,000 loan amount, right? Starting rate of 6.99. Take it down here. If people can see this, I'll try to blow it up a little further if I can. Does it allow me to? No? Okay, it doesn't allow me to, I don't think. But a 2-1 buy down, a $450,000 loan amount. Let's say you bought up, okay, let's just say for simply a $500,000 purchase, 5% down, just to kind of keep the numbers kind of somewhat, 450, 5%. 6.99, your first interest rate year would be 4.99. That would be a monthly savings of $578 a month. And
how much would it be if I bought it down for the entire term using 10,000?
Not
a 2-1 buy down.
Yeah, 2-1 buy down. The $10,000 cost would get you down to 6 3/8.
Okay.
So you're looking at about a half a point move. Okay, let's see. 10,000 will get you down to 6 3/8. Let's just call it a half a point. So that at 699, that'd be 29.99. You're saving about 100 and let's see, let's call it 3,000. So about $180 permanently.
Versus a $10,000 reduction gets you about $70 maybe.
Yeah, $70 versus a 2-1 buy down. Like you said, this 2-1 buy down, flip this back over again. 2-1 buy down costs you at basically say 400, say $500,000 purchase, 5% down, $450,000 loan amount. 499 would be your first year starting rate. And then after the first year goes to 599, and then after that 699 and forever. So like I said, the first year you have a pretty good monthly savings of $578 a month. And the second year would be still close to $300. So the cost would be $10,484 to get to that 2-1 buy down.
So you just said that like the prevailing rate on that would be like 6.99.
Yeah.
But then on the other one, if we took 10,000 and we bought it down for 30 years, it'd get us down to 6.5.
6.6 3/8, let's say. Let's see.
Okay. So
6
so
3/8.
really the difference between the two is not that. In other words, you're not taking this enormous risk. Now, I'm not selling you the 2-1 buy down, but I'm just hearing and saying, wow, the final number when the 2-1 buy down finally resets in 2-3 years, is almost pretty close to what I could get if I bought it down for 30 years anyway. So why not go ahead and save some money on the first 2 years?
Yeah. Well, what it will allow you to do also is that, let's say you want to keep the payment, keep it the same. You're saving $578 a month. You might have a car payment for the next year that, if you're saving $578, maybe you got a $400 a month car payment that you can take that money and use that to pay down that car.
Yeah, you're going to have to be good in budget. If you get something like that, you're going to have to be a very disciplined person.
Yeah, you want to be disciplined. But then, like I said, if rates do in a year and a half, let's say rates do go down to let's say the low 6s, high 5s, then you lock in a longer term rate, and you're good to go. I mean, there's no guarantee rates are going to go down, but I know one thing. There's a guarantee that rates will not be the same today, or they won't be the same, 3 months from now than they are today. You look at any rate chart,
you're absolutely right.
They're constantly moving around.
Well, Running at Altitude says a significant percentage of realtors are struggling to secure contracts. I've heard numbers as high as 70% without a contract for 2024. And where that's coming from is this contract ratio right here. And this is, and my handy dandy magnifying glass is not letting me do it. Contract ratio is 31.5. So that is indeed true that, 70% of agents are struggling to get a contract. And again, it depends on your price point.
Yeah.
We're also seeing this chart I pulled up here. This is what we just alluded to earlier, and that is this 51% of sellers are offering concessions, and the average is 10 grand. And that's why I brought up the, buying down the rate.
Yeah.
What is the outlook for 2025? Well, it depends. I don't know. I know for the first quarter, I think we're going to be average sales price, I believe, will be a negative number by the end of Q1. I don't think it's going to be real significant. At the end of the year, there's a lot of, those that track that stuff are kind of starting to predict we're going to be flat. Even Altos is saying that the numbers they're seeing are looking towards at the end of our spring market being in negative territory.
Yeah, well, that no doubt. I mean, I just pulled up an article here today. I mean, it rolls right into this article right here. That it says D.R. Horton, Pulte, Smith, Douglas downgrade on Chile spring home building outlook. Just basically what you and I have been saying, the last several months. It says A mostly challenging outlook for home builders caused analysts to reshuffle ratings on big names in most of the big names in the sector on Monday. It says here, we expect a challenging environment for home builders to persist through the first half of 2025. They must be following us. I think they must be following us, Rick.
Yeah.
I really think that it's good for them. It says investors tend to focus on demand, but we're more concerned about the higher cost of inflation, rising land prices, and more competitive selling environment, higher increasing inventory and higher mortgage rates. Also, it says here, hopes are high that home builders will fix America's housing crisis, but the data tell a different story. The situation is not entirely bleak. However, a couple of names drew upgrades as offering relative value compared with other. This is talking about stocks, but they're just talking about kind of what we're talking about. That's just going to be one of those, chilly.
Yeah, it's gonna be that kind of. And Debbie's feeling it right now. House been listed for 150 days. Started at 1 million after a couple of reductions. We're at 970,000 with no offers still. Depends on the neighborhood, depends on the price, and it is price. It's nothing other than price. You're forgetting the exposure. It's on the MLS. You got great pictures. It's price, and that's the painful part of real estate is that you're sitting there and going, I thought I could get 1 million and I can't, and geez, now I got to go down. It all depends on how bad you want to sell, and lower prices will result in more contracts. And Clayton says affordability still isn't there where rates are, and I don't think incomes are going up that much in Phoenix. I saw a chart the other day that said, one of three things has to happen. Either wages have to increase by 62%, not happening. Home prices have to go down by 38%, not seeing any indication of that yet. Or interest rates have to get down in the low fives. No, actually the fours. No, 2.9. I'm sorry. That's what they said. In order to get that. Now, there can be a soft combination between the three that makes things easier, and that's what everybody's hoping for. But the bottom line is also sellers probably need to just lower the price of what they're selling. And Clayton, tell me if you agree, because what I'm seeing that prices are a direct result of early optimism in January.
Yeah.
There's pricing I know I can get, or I think I can get. And a lot of people are pricing I think I can get. And Debbie here says, maybe we should offer a rate buy down. My agent originally suggested we list at 1025, and we thought that was too high. Well, obviously you were right. 1025 was too high. But Debbie, also, I would stress you to do a search within 5 miles of your house with homes that match your criteria, and only look at homes that have been on the market for more than 90 days. That's your competition. What does their house look like? How does it compare to yours? It's been on the market for 90 days. Where are they priced at? Because that tells you where the market is today. Looking at comps tells you what sold yesterday, at least 30 and 45 days out. So you also have to take a look. So tell your agent, draw a circle, look within 2 miles of my house and tell me what other homes in my square foot range have been on the market for more than 90 days. That's a true snapshot of today's market.
Yeah, you brought that up in your video earlier this morning, which was, I think it's a great idea. And like you mentioned, I mean, buyers have got probably a better grip of what's going on with the market than a seller. Joe and Mary Smith are selling their house, like Debbie. I mean, maybe, obviously, maybe she hasn't seen what else is out there because they're concerned about, like you said earlier in that video, that they're concerned about selling their house.
Yeah, the person that looking in that neighborhood, they're on Zillow 2 to 3 times a day, or their Realtor's portal or Redfin or whatever. They're zeroed in and focused, and they're looking all the time. And as a seller, you're probably not looking in your neighborhood. You're looking where you want to move. So you're pretty drilled in on that neighborhood, but are you drilled in on what's going on in your neighborhood? Now, I had a client in one area that said, she goes, I don't care what's sold. I'm just concerned that I've been on the market for 60 days with no contract. And I looked up the numbers and I said, 40% of people within 1 mile of your house have been on the market longer than you. Now that's a wake-up call.
Yeah.
So if only 10% of the people had been on the market, then that ought to tell you, well, you're priced wrong. But where is today's market. And so look at your neighborhood as if you were going to buy there. You're not going to check it 2 or 3 times a day. Don't look at your Zestimate. That doesn't mean diddly anymore. Just take a look and say, I want to see what's been out there that's been on the market over 90 days. And I think you'll be shocked.
Mm-hmm.
I think you'll really go, wow, I had no idea. Thank you for the content, not in real estate, but learning the market as an investor. Still seeing sellers wanting top dollar. They are, Ted. They're not there yet. Here's one that says, I feel like it's a waste of time looking to buy everything so expensive. I need to focus on income instead. We will eventually get through this. I don't know when. I mean, we could end up with a lost generation here of first-time home buyers, unfortunately. There's a lot of things that could happen that could make inflation raise its ugly head too.
Mm-hmm.
Real estate,
I think,
it's who knows.
I think, not getting just policy. What is obviously the Trump administration? It feels like he's been president for like a year now. It's like God.
It's been an interesting week.
Huh?
I said it's been an interesting week.
It's definitely been an interesting week, and I think if he's definitely got a strong personality. He's pushing things around. I mean, who knows? But I think if he does loosen up some of these regulations, he's saying he's going to cut 10 regulations for every one that's administered. Well, certainly, I think that'll have a deflationary effect, and we'll see. It's just not going to be something that I think everybody wants a quick answer these days, but there's not going to be a quick answer in terms of being able to buy a home, and it's a lot of it's not easy like it was 10 or 15 years ago to buy a home. It's a process now. If the low hanging fruit is gone, and like I said, I think concentrating on your income, concentrating on your managing your debt load, whether it's a lot of people I see they've got $600, $700, $800 car payments. If you're looking to buy a home, take a look at downgrading your vehicle, just things of that nature. They're going to make it easier. So,
well, Jason here says he's looking at Queen Creek. What effect do new builds have on existing homes? Will the new build incentives drive down existing home prices? They have a tendency to do that. The only advantage that you have, let's say you have a pool, you can look at the new builds and they're asking blah, blah, blah for it. Well, the pools cost in excess of $100K now, and the new builders are not putting in pools, or are they providing incentives for it? So you have an advantage there from a marketing perspective. So I can say, yeah, well, he's priced, you're not getting the incentives that you're getting from the new build, but you've already got a yard, you already got window coverings, you've got a pool, built-in barbecue, all of these things that you don't have in the new build. And of course, you're going to have to be price competitive. That's why you see in the Cromford Index that it's the outlying towns that are getting hurt the most, where most of the building is going on, like this. Maricopa, CMI is 51, Queen Creek 71. Those are buyers markets. That is where all the building's going on. Queen Creek, Surprise, Buckeye, and Maricopa. So yes, it has an impact, and it hurts. Louis suggesting test Rick's theory, listed 620K, LOL.
You first.
I love her answer. You first.
That's a great one. I love it.
You first. You let me know how it works out. Yeah. It's stressful. I'm sure, Debbie, you went and you sat down with your realtor and you guys looked at house after house, and you felt very comfortable with the number, and you were looking at the data, and then along comes this, what was supposed to be a great January, and things just are going. That's
it's deflating. It's mentally very tough.
Here's foreclosures. If you're waiting for anything going on in foreclosures, you're going to grow, old like me. I mean, it ain't out there. So that's there's nothing popping, I guess, is what I wanted the theme for today to be. It says, we kid about muddling along, but there's nothing that's either flying straight up or flying straight down that's giving you an indicator of where we're headed in any other direction except slower for longer.
Yeah.
Kind of how I cooked my baby back ribs yesterday.
Yeah,
Slower for longer.
like you said, I don't see anything. It's, you wish you could, love to bring some news on this channel that's going to, give some people some inspiration. But I'm just, there's no trend that's really like, okay, yeah, this, I could definitely see this happening now. This is where we're going.
What I
And
can't wrap my head around, the people that are listing today, are you listing because you have to sell? Are you listing because you want to sell to see if you can capture some inventory? So there's a difference between the two, because people that are kind of testing the waters are going to let the listing expire or
it would,
cancel it.
wouldn't it be great if you, when you're listing a house, and I thought about this morning after we talked, it would be great to see some type of indicator like the Cromford report, like where if you listed a house on MLS, you had to put in. Obviously, this is something you probably find from the listing agent. You talk to a listing agent. Correct me if I'm wrong, but are they selling the house because they're getting a divorce? Are they moving because of a job change? Those are people that obviously have to do something. I mean, it would be kind of cool to have some type of indicator to say these houses are have to be sold within the next 2-3 months,
Yeah,
or
wouldn't that disrupt the market?
this group of people are just for shits and giggles putting it out there to see what their house will sell for. It'd be kind of cool that if you could decipher, grind down the numbers like that.
Well, it
Just
could
say,
be
yep,
new real estate acronyms, have to sell, what's that? HTS,
yeah.
um, you know,
Well, I mean,
might,
some people on some
like,
listing,
oh,
well,
okay.
you do see some, obviously, you have to look at some of those signs, those little trigger points, because sometimes in MLS listings, people will say have to sell, divorce, don't they? Or no, is it? I thought,
Not all the time. No, they don't. I mean, you try not to show your cards. I mean,
yeah,
if
yeah.
I'm an agent, I'm putting,
I've seen that once in a
seller
while though, like,
seller
has to.
motivated. You can
Hmm?
actually do a search on the MLS under seller motivated, and it'll pull it up in the comments section, and you go, oh, okay, this is great. But I think, I mean, look, buyers are doing it now. They're not looking at anything that's been on the market less than 120 days. And so, there's so many different ways. And to your good point, call the agent. I got a client really interested in your house. What's the backstory on this?
Yeah, and that they
And
will tell. I
they
mean,
tell you.
they'll tell
They
you, won't
tell
they?
you.
Yeah. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's a divorce settlement. I got to get, or a probate. The kids want to get out of the house. And, certainly you start digging into some of those little fine details as a good agent will dig into those details because, you also look at, um, that you can glean information off the MLS. Okay. They bought the house in 2010 for $110,000. And now they're selling it for 600,000. There's no mortgage on
Yeah.
it. He's got room to move, to
Yeah.
negotiate.
Yeah.
Or then you
But
can also pull up the MLS and see somebody that bought a house maybe in 2022 for 470, for say 450, and they're trying to sell it for 500, but that they owe 480. There's not a lot of room for negotiating there.
Well, I think Debbie's situation is typical on a percentage basis of what I think we're seeing in the market. Debbie says we had a chance in employment, but we don't have to sell. A change in employment, but we don't have to sell. It would just make life easier. We're at an age where downsizing is desirable. So, like, it'd be okay if we can
Yeah.
sell and get this price. If not, okay, I can
That's,
let it expire. I shall return another day. There's
yeah.
a lot of that out there.
Well, that goes back to what we've been, maybe harping on it the last year or two, as far as people say, oh, we're going to see a crash, values are going to drop 20, 30, 40%. No, this situation is that scenario is a lot different than when we saw in '08 when people had 3 or 4 homes and they had to sell. They were just like,
Yeah.
okay, we
Yeah.
have no choice. So, there are people a lot more comfortable and they're sitting. That's why we're seeing this malaise as far as just the market muddling along, because people they don't have a gun to their head, but they're like Debbie, well, we like to sell, it'd make our lives a lot easier, but we don't have to, we can kind of
Yeah.
ride it out for a little bit
So
longer.
there's no panic there. There's no, I
No.
gotta get up underneath this. And that's, I mean, Debbie, thank you for that comment. That is our market in a nutshell.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Clayton here says, does the court order a house to be listed at a more reasonable price if not getting any bites in divorce? They pretty much stay out of it, Clayton, except during the initial divorce proceedings where they bring in appraisers and realtors for that kind of do a lot of divorce appraisals and say, here is the market value. And then the husband and the wife and the judge look at that and says, okay, we all comfortable with listing the house at this value? And then after that, they don't touch it. So it's just up to the husband and wife agreeing on a sales price, and it usually gets pretty sticky. One wants this, the other one says, I just want to get out from underneath it. And I've been in those situations. The judge does, in my opinion, I haven't seen it where the judge comes back in and says, you have to have a reasonable price. They want a fair market value. Sometimes one spouse will say, I think this house is worth this. And then the other spouse says, well, actually, no, it's worth this. And so that's when the judge says, well, I'm happy about your opinion. Let's bring in a third party. And they put it, and that's when they draw up all the mess, because you're not just a house, it's a bank account, the business. And it's really a mess when you're divorced and you got a business. You got to get a business appraisal because, one party probably really has no idea what that business is bringing in. So divorces are a mess for sure.
Yeah. I like this one. I like this news article that popped up just here today. It said Fed officials may drop a bombshell on interest rates this week.
I don't think so.
No, yeah, they're talking about the Fed, working. It says the president, talking his back and forth what he's thinking. So it's all just, just scuttlebutt news that's making people even more skittish. As far as what's going to go on, it's kind of.
If anybody believes that a president can convince a central banker to lower rates, I've got a bridge to sell you.
Yeah.
Come on. I mean, it's good rhetoric, but reality, bond traders are setting the rates, and bond traders right now, like I said earlier, saying, I don't think you got a handle on inflation. So we don't want to buy these bonds and end up in negative territory if inflation eats away at us. So they're not convinced that it's been smacked down completely. And they're looking and going, these tariffs are going to make it worse. Now I'm in the camp that says, I don't think so, but I've been wrong before. So I think mostly because we've had tariffs before and we have tariffs now.
Yeah.
We got all this negotiation going on with, back and forth with Canada. We have a huge lumber tariff on Canada right now that was placed by Trump that Biden didn't remove. It's still there. So, there's a lot of tariffs out there that are still existing. And I think, the lumber is expensive and it is a big cost to building the house, but a lot of the regulations are local. It's not federal. If you really want to lower the cost of regulations when it comes to building a house in your neighborhood, it ain't Washington, D.C. that's piling on those expenses.
No.
If you think the house is being sold because of divorce, look at the closets and garage. He's been out there looking before he got his. Yeah, you're right. You don't even have to ask. You're just going to go, because I was at one and we were looking at it. It was in Gilbert. And my client pointed out, he goes, Rick, did you notice there's no men's clothes in that closet? I go, I wasn't paying that close attention. He goes, yeah. What's that tell you? And we found out he was right.
Well, it's interesting. Speaking of cost of a build a home, I pull this up. If you want to just pull up my thing, I don't know if I can blow this up further, but it talked about. I pulled this up last week, and it talked about the cost of constructing a home in 2024. So the construction costs account for 64% of the average price of a home. It goes on to say the average builder profit margin was 11% in 24, up less than a percentage point from 10.1% in 22. But it was interesting looking at this breakdown, talking about the overhead costs and general expenses, 38,000. This is what the I think it was a let's see here. Total sales price $665,000 home. and it went over everything that was kind of caught into the cost of it. Overhead and general expenses, 38,000. Marketing costs were $5,600. Sales commission was 18,000. On a $665,000 home, the builder made about $72,000 profit. But this goes right in here. Those builder incentives in terms of interest rates. That's this part of this equation.
So I'm looking down there. Building permit fees were 7,600. Impact fees 63. Water sewer fees inspections $6,000. Architectural engineering $6,000, and then other almost $6,000.
I wonder what that other is. Just
I don't know, but building permit fees, that's local.
Yeah.
Impact fee, that's local.
Yep.
Water and sewer fees, I get the inspections, but that's local. And then the rest is framing, trusses, sheathing, and major systems, rough ends, plumbing and stuff. So HVAC, 26 grand. That's in it. Can I technically challenge you, Pat, to copy that link and put it in the chat?
I will. Can I send it? I'll send the link to you, and then you can put it in. I don't trust myself.
Yeah.
I'll probably delete,
end up with your bank
delete the whole.
if you did it.
I'll probably delete the whole chat or something if something will go wrong. So but you look at I thought this was very interesting. It kind of gave. I never really, when was the last time you saw a breakdown like this? I thought it was very interesting. How much goes into building a home, what's involved. The doors, the drywall, the insulation, lighting, appliances. I mean, if we can see some type of relief in all those areas, at least kind of a cooling off.
Well, what the biggest bucket is obviously materials, right?
Yeah. Material, electrical, plumbing.
There isn't a list on there that says lumber. So yeah, I would say, well, it's got to be materials and labor. Got to be the biggest ones.
If you want to take a look at it, I mean, the total construction cost is $428,000. Like I said, what can they control? Overhead and general expenses, $38,000. Marketing costs, that could, sales commission. Building
Those are the only variable expenses then, right? So it's the overhead and general expenses. Not a lot of margin there, 38 grand.
Yeah.
Interesting. I'm glad you shared that. So see that link. I'll put it in the chat. It'll show up in the replay. It won't be here now, but I'll put it in the.
Yeah. I just thought that was interesting. That I pulled up last week.
Put a link in the description as well. So people can find it. And I think, you know what? I may even include it in my newsletter next week. What newsletter, you may ask? Well, I have a newsletter comes out every Monday morning at 7 a.m. and there's a link in the description. Go ahead and sign up for that. So I don't spam you. That's all you get is the newsletter at 7 o'clock in the morning on Monday. So I go through the Cromford data. I go through mortgage rates, and then I offer my opinion down on the bottom. I think, Pat, you're a subscriber.
I am.
You probably don't read it, but
I know what you're kind of getting at, but no, I also I want to also say, we mentioned this a couple of times about the property profiles. If everybody has any, you mentioned this before, we haven't mentioned this in a while, but if you have any properties that you own or are looking to buy, just send the link, send the address to Rick. I know how they do that, Rick, right? They send you the property address and then I'll pull.
Yeah, just send it to me, rick@rickhelps.com, and I put it in there. I also want to caution people too, because I got a request this morning. As much as I want to help, I can't meddle if you're already listed with an agent. In other words, if your house is listed and you go, Rick, can you check this price? That's an ethical slap on the head with me if I do that. Because now I'm interfering with somebody else's hard work. And so there may be some people that do that, but I'm not going to cross that bridge.
No,
I'd love to say that guy's all wet, but I'm not going to. I will go in and look, and if they make a comment that goes, I haven't had any showings, then I'll say, well, yeah, I would talk to your agent about that. It sounds like price, but I'm not going to run a comp on a house that's already listed.
No,
that's asking for trouble. I made a
Nope.
comment because somebody called me once, and I didn't make the mistake of asking if they were already listed, and I was offering some advice. Oh man, I got the nastiest phone call from an agent. She would not let up.
Okay.
I don't think
Yeah.
she was going to quit talking until she had proof that my ears were bleeding. I was like,
Yeah. I mean,
okay,
we're
I'm
here
sorry,
to
I hear
we're here to
you.
help. Obviously, we like to work with people, but we're here to obviously try to give some good advice. Like you said, if somebody has a loan that they're working on, that I give a opinion. I will give my honest opinion. I mean, for the most part,
Yeah, now it's different for you. You can do that.
yeah, yeah. I could just tell people right away whether they're getting. There are some lenders that will, give you a great rate, but then the average person doesn't look at the discount points that they're paying to get that rate.
Yes.
They're paying a ton of money, and it's, I can just give them my little bit of feedback. So
You showed me an example once where you could have saved the buyer $7,500, but they didn't
8,500,
they
8,500.
didn't want to take the time to look at it.
Oh,
So I was like,
it is what it
okay,
is.
okay. So, well, Pat, thanks for jumping on today on short notice. I mean, I just gave you a call probably around noon and said, hey, and yet here we are. So,
Yep.
totally prepared to confuse everybody. We'll continue to watch these numbers and stay on top of it. We will not be on
This Thursday.
Thursday, and we skipped last week because I was in Palm Desert, Cathedral City, visiting my brother and sister-in-law. That was a fun trip, and I'm always amazed when I drive out in the far West Valley how much is going on out there. I'm just like,
Yeah.
wow, just one warehouse after another, one apartment complex, just unbelievable. So
It's crazy.
had a lot of stuff going on out there. So. Pat, have a good one. Thanks to our millions and millions of viewers. Once again, everybody have a great Monday. Take on the rest of the week. See you later.
Take care, everybody.